Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Nursery. I'm Dr. Somebody else to know this.
Bruh, mate jumped me with that countdown. He was just mid-sentence and said, 31 out!
I told him to count. I had to change the recording level, and then I did it. By the way, who are you?
Oh, I'm JJ, aka Junior Wolf, and drinking Chick-fil-A.
I got a root beer.
Anyways, Seth!
So, we don't know when this one's going up, but I'm going to be going back to camp. So we want to make sure you guys got content, so this will be a pre-recorded one. So this one's going to be a little bit more generic than like a current event. And we also should warn you that there is a very high chance that you might hear a repeat of content. What are we going back to?
So we are going to be talking about genres again. And anybody who, listened before we actually got listeners, so maybe like 3 people that might actually listen to this.
At you. Thanks, man.
Yep. We did an episode almost a year ago now about genres and how the defining lines between genres are kind of stupid. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today, and we're going to pick a specific genre from our list from that episode, which by the way, I had to take a whole minute trying to find this list because I was like, I know I made a list, and I searched my computer. It was apparently a text file that I saved in my computer. Luckily, I thought to name it game genres, because if I didn't, I never would have found this.
No, you would not have.
But yeah, so we have this list, and we're just going to kind of talk about a genre.
It's not even, it wasn't even in the original. We probably discussed it. But it's just, so pretty much the idea, like the main point was defining it, right? Like you said, defining it, because there were some really weird ones like Rocket League. Like, we don't remember what we discussed, but like, that's a good example of, is that a racing game? Is that a sports game?
Here, let me see where we put it here, because I feel like we definitely talked about that one.
Where did you put it? Oh my god, I'm scared.
It's in sports.
Okay, so it is sports, which I don't count sports. I count sports as sports, soccer, hockey, like the show, all those. But we classify Rocket League as
sports game.
So it's a little trippy, some of these, but a good genre that we really need to discuss, so that way we can move forward, and just that way we just have this logic set, is RPGs.
Yes, so last time we broke a lot of these up, and we kind of, in a way, created our own genres, or used some subgenres as, like, main ones instead, because if you really look at, like, the big genres out there, none of them really tell you much about what you're playing. It's just like, hey, this is a game, and you could technically put it in this category, because it has the one, like, single tag that would allow it to be in this category.
It has a gun, it's now a shooter.
Exactly, like that doesn't make any sense.
That's not how that works. Like, you can have bows and arrows and it'd be a shooter. Like, I don't classify
and then you also
put
parkour in. Is it a platformer as well? No, it needs to be one of these things. It needs to, like, match up well with one of these genres, the main and that was kind of our goal
of the episode.
Exactly.
The game.
So we kind of added some genres in there. Like, obviously we have our main ones like FPS, fighting games, racing games, but then we also added like sandbox, which is technically a subgenre. We kind of lifted that up to being its own genre. And then we took things like narrative-driven, open world, and choose your own adventure and made them like main genres as well, because they kind of allowed us to break up some of those bigger categories that just didn't well define the games within them.
Like story games, right? Like Call of Duty has a campaign, and that is very much a story. But Call of Duty ain't a story game.
It is not a story game. I refuse to call it.
We classified into specific categories, and I feel like maybe RPG can go in there. So this is going to be like another, where we're just going to talk about it. We might think of subgenres throughout the episode. Which, by the way, as a summary, like before we get into this, list off those 3 categories. What games did we put in them?
So, for narrative-driven, we put Guardians of the Galaxy, God of War, The Last of Us, Portal, and What Remains of Edith Finch.
So I think the other thing we kind of discussed with this one was it's more linear. These are a lot more linear focused.
Very linear
you're
games,
go from
not
one
much
mission
else
to
you
another.
Can do. Mm-hmm. Then, in open world, we had Zelda, obviously Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Assassin's Creed, the newer ones especially, Spider-Man, Elder Scrolls, and GTA.
Okay, yeah, that all makes sense. You know, there is very much a story in something like Zelda, Assassin's Creed, but it's not so linear. And I'd say even maybe some of the new Star Wars games we can put in there now. Just stuff like that. You know, there's definitely story in there, but it's not like I said, it's not one mission directly to another. There's more freedom in that.
And then last one, choose your own adventure. This one was kind of out of nowhere from what I remember because we kind of needed a genre to be these role-playing games that were really about you becoming the role. And so we have Minecraft Story Mode, Tales from the Borderlands, Detroit Become Human, Henry Stickmin, and Baldur's Gate 3. All games with multiple endings, very much defined by all of the choices that you make in the game.
So that's that, and that's kind of where we're going to go to now with RPGs. We might not have 3 specific subcategories, we might not have any subcategories, but that's kind of the idea we're going to go behind with that. And especially now that we're going to do this more, as of the time of recording that episode, I haven't even played Diablo, and I've significantly upped. I haven't finished a lot of games, but I think I have plenty of time and definitely dipped my toes enough to actually have a proper conversation.
Started playing games other than Fortnite.
Because Fortnite has become a trash heap.
Right.
Like,
anyways,
we're going to have another one, but we're not going to talk about Fortnite. Well, Save the World RPG.
No.
Am I wrong? Fortnite's everything, JJ. Fortnite's everything.
I don't want it to be everything, though. Sigh.
Okay.
Just sigh.
So where do we want to start? Like, this is a very open-ended. We're not going to, choose. We can maybe how about we choose a game and we can start picking off what an RPG is based on a game. And let's start with the big one. Or go ahead.
I just opened up the category of role-playing games on the Xbox store just so that I can look at what they have listed, and we can kind of decide for ourselves what we think, if these actually fit in these categories or not. Okay. Which already I'm seeing some that we would put into some of our other categories rather than, them making sense as an RPG. But obviously, because we have our broken up pieces of RPG, the Choose Your Own Adventure Open World Narrative Driven, we're going to kind of have to, instead of just saying, oh, that's not an RPG, we'll have to figure out which one of those 3 I think it goes in, or one of our other ones if it fits that better.
So honestly, we can already start off, and there's definitely subgenres. I just realized MMORPG.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a good start to this. There's definitely subgenres, and I just thought of that because when I think RPG, there are 2 different types of RPG I instantly think of. I think of the classic MMO. You have your skills, right? You have your foresting, you have your level of stuff, and that's generally going to be more the MMO RPG type things. Then obviously you have other stuff I'm trying to think. I looked up. It says Ghost of Tsushima, right? There's some other stuff that I could totally see being put into that, but I feel like it's not that same set.
Mm-hmm. I have an objection, though.
Go for it.
I don't think
can be
MMO
wrong.
should be a genre. I think that is simply a gameplay element. So I wouldn't even say it's a subcategory of RPGs. I would say that's just an element of a game that you might be playing.
It is. It's not the MMO. It's just when I think MMORPGs, it's this overarching umbrella. It's not the MMO category. It's just when I'm thinking of MMORPGs, those RPGs are a little different than others.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I could use for that term.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean, though? Do you get where I'm
something like Fallout 76,
Yeah.
The massively online games that definitely still have a story and you're still playing a role, but it's just with a lot of other people in the world.
So, really, that's a little different than, I don't know, Genshin.
Yeah.
Genshin's in saying it's an RPG on the PlayStation Store, and I do not put that in the same level of RPG as World of Warcraft or Fallout 4.
Yeah. Just for funsies, where would you put Genshin?
So I guess it's just if those are the two categories we have right now, we have like the general skills tab, and then we don't have the skills tab. And I'm gonna put that with the non-skills tab.
Okay, I think that makes sense.
So, because I do think...
Would you call that a narrative-driven? Because I feel like it's way too open.
So I guess that's kind of where it is, right? Like, a lot of these could also be open-world games.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a narrative.
Yeah.
There is a end goal. There's a final boss. Because honestly... Would you also say something
well,
like...
this is Genshin. I wouldn't say it has a final anything. It's still going after, 5-6 years?
It is, but, like, there is the main story, and then there's all the DLC and stuff. But there is a main final boss, from what I understand. But would you even say, like, maybe something like the new Zelda would be an RPG, right?
The new Zelda is an RPG, yeah, and that's why we kind of broke it up in putting it in open world.
Yeah, but then we also didn't discuss RPGs at all. But then, like,
But we did.
We did, but, like, like, World of Warcraft is open world, right? But are we saying that's not an RPG?
I have never, ever seen gameplay of World of Warcraft. I'm not even gonna lie.
That's crazy. It's,
I'm not old enough for that one. That one's a little before my time.
Is World of Warcraft...
See, that one's an MMO, though, right?
Yeah, it's an MMORPG. This allows the player to create a character and explore an open game world in third person. But, so that is obviously open world. But are we not going to put the RPG, like the MMORPG in the RPG category?
But we agreed there is no RPG category, because that's too broad. So we can't put it in an RPG category.
So then what's your genre again?
So we have to find out where we're putting it that's not just labeled RPG, because that's too unspecific. It doesn't tell you anything about the game that you're playing.
So that's why...
So I think what we may do here is, looking at this list here, open world is starting not to make much sense, because it may be an element of the game, but it doesn't tell you about anything about the game you're playing. So I'm thinking, let's break our open world category in half here, and let's separate it into, like, what is an open world game, and then maybe, like, a second one being, how do I say this, like, not necessarily open world driven, but it has a world you can explore, if that makes sense. So we have, like, games like Skyrim up here, where it's like, yes, there's a main quest, but do everything else. And then there's a world you can explore here, but there's a main story we want you to follow. Maybe we can break it up into two things there.
I could see that. We can,
because then World of Warcraft, I believe that would be one where you put into the do everything else circle, and then something like what's a good one, like Spider-Man, I would put into the follow the main story one, because there's
you can go explore these buildings, but all that building's gonna do is get you to the next quest. Like,
pretty much.
There's not really... Okay. See, so these are gonna... We have a few more, and I think now that we're doing this right now, I think we definitely should try to do these more sooner than waiting another year for another one.
I
think this is very important.
Make this an annual thing. We'll come back to this once a year without any, like, going back and looking at anything. We'll just have to stumble our way through these episodes.
This is a very technical one, but I do think it's very important, especially with all these random games, and it's also funny because it's just... When we also look at games nowadays, it's just like Amazon listings. It's just filled with tags. So what do the tags actually mean anymore? So let's try to figure out what those tags mean. That's what we're doing right now.
Okay, so if we're separating these, what are we calling these types of games? Because we need, like, actual titles for them.
So I guess maybe like the quest one, where it's just like so many side quests. Do you see where I'm going? Not quest, but do you see like something like that for that category? And then just the more driven ones. So Because I feel like you said, that's kind of what it is. It's just you kind of go around and you just do everything. So again, I'm thinking like Zelda, you have all the Korok seeds, right? You have hundreds of them. You just kind of go whatever, but you don't have to go to one of the 4.
So how about like open adventure?
Open adventure, okay. That works.
All right, so open adventure, and then the second one would be what?
So the open adventure
open
would be
story?
like yeah.
Open adventure is like you can do anything. Open story is like
we
have an open
world,
area, but you're following a story.
But you're going one place to another.
Yeah.
Or it's highly suggested, right? And that's the other thing. Like you're not forced to it, but it's highly recommended, and it's going to yell at you, "Hey, this is where you probably should go."
So open adventure and open story. I like those.
Cool.
Okay,
see,
so
we're making some progress.
Let's look at our 5 that we have here that we had in open
and
world,
put them
and let's
in
try
where we
and
think.
divvy them up into these 2. So we have Zelda. Would we call that an open adventure or open story?
The newer ones, open adventure, right? Like I said, you don't have to go to one or the other, and you don't have to do really any quest. But there is so many side quests when it comes to memories, gear, islands, shrines. Like, there's so much you can do that helps you to that main quest, but it's not required. Because here's another thing I feel like that works with these types of categories in Zelda. Theoretically, you can go straight to the final boss. Like, if I'm saying Breath of the Wild, I can come out of the Shrine of Resurrection, I can beat the plateau, and I can go straight to Calamity Ganon. I think that's where it drives to that more open adventure, where there is no... It's not just open world, but there is no requirements in that world. Whereas I feel like the open story, I can't just go to the final boss. I can't go to chapter 30.
Yeah.
There's stuff I can do before then, but I have to do chapter 1 before I can go to chapter 2.
Now, number 2, Assassin's Creed. This one, I kind of, in retrospect, I just put Assassin's Creed. I think we can actually put this in both categories as new and old because they're very different games. I think the new ones are absolutely open adventures, but the old ones are open stories because they have worlds that you can go and get collectibles from, but in the end, you're only really able to do the main story and things that support it. So I'm going to, in parentheses, add like
very different.
New and old after them. All right, and then after that we have Spider-Man.
So I'd say story.
Yeah, open story. I would agree with that there because obviously it's a smaller world. There's still side quests, but those side quests are very solely linked to the main story.
Yeah, you're just most of the side quests is just gear for the main story. It's like, hey, you have to complete the Fisk's hideouts, you know. But like that doesn't really do much other than the main story of saving the city from the final boss or something.
Then we have Elder Scrolls and GTA. I think we should definitely leave in this open adventure category.
Yeah.
Because those ones are also very like go do everything in the world kind of games.
Yeah.
So, okay. So now we moved a grand total of 2 into the open story category. And I feel like we should not only fill, the empty spots that we have, but maybe find a couple more, not necessarily add into the list, but just get our own idea of what we have here.
So we have a better understanding of what it is.
Yeah, so open adventure. Let's try and find one more open adventure game that we didn't discuss yet. So let's see what we got.
Open up the good old game store. I have maybe, I'd say more story. The Witcher. Witcher 3.
You would call that an open story?
Yeah. Because it's highly like, you should be going here. Like, this is your next main quest.
I mean, yes, but to counter that, there is literally a mode that you can choose that doesn't give you that guide. Am I wrong? Like, upon starting the game, it asks you, like, do you want guided mode or do you want, like, exploration mode, I think it is.
I don't mean that. Like, it's like, this is like the challenge rating. This is your next mission. Like, you have to do this to do this, I believe, from how far I got. I didn't, like, get super far, but from the time that I played, it feels more like that than just a super generic open world. where I can go to this town before
because
this town.
that game defined like big open worlds with so much to do. That's the game that pretty much inspired Assassin's Creed Odyssey, from what I understand. I don't think they're that much alike, but apparently that's what everyone's saying is The Witcher 3 came out, and then everybody wanted to make a game like it, and that's why we got so many open world, like, collectathon kind of things.
Okay.
So I wouldn't really put that in open story. I would maybe put that in open adventure, but if you don't want to, we can leave that one out just for now.
We'll leave that one, because that's from what I played, but I did only get, like, 12 hours in, which is not that significant in that type of game.
Yeah.
DC Universe Online is apparently one. An RPG.
See, there's a couple of these that are definitely cross-genre, because I would say Baldur's Gate 3, we have that currently in our Choose Your Own Adventure category, which it very much is. However, it is also a huge open world where you can do a lot of things. There are so many side quests, so...
I feel like I said, it's the primary thing, right? So when it comes to Witcher 3, your primary thing is exploring the world, gearing up, whereas Baldur's Gate, it's D&D, like you go from one quest to another. It's that...
Yeah.
I think
that makes sense,
thunder.
yeah.
I just felt my house shake. That is definitely thunder.
I know neither of us have played this, but what about Cyberpunk?
Okay.
I personally haven't played it. I've seen a little bit of gameplay. I think, obviously, it's one that you can dump a lot of hours to, but from what I understand, it is a fairly narrative-driven one.
Yeah. Yeah, from what I know, I'd say from the little bit that I know, I probably put it more in story than fully open world.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we'll put that there, but it's a wiggly one, so if we want to change it, we can. You haven't played this one, but I think I'm going to add this one because I'm pretty dang sure about it. Hogwarts Legacy, I'm going to put an open story because that one has a big world you can explore, but there's not a lot you can do in that world that isn't part of the main story. So I'm going to throw that one on there.
So, again, when it comes to RPGs, like I said, like skills, I feel like we should put Diablo in here. But where do we put Diablo?
I don't know.
Because, like, that's, like, like I said, like, there's RPGs that when you think because you don't really think The Witcher as an RPG, you think of more as open world, but we can definitely put it as an RPG. But when you think RPG, I'm thinking Diablo a little bit. I'm thinking World of Warcraft.
I would probably put that more in open adventure. Because playing through Diablo 3 and 4 myself, there is a lot of side quests. Not only that, but there's also, like, events going on and limited, like, season stuff that you can go and do. And you could get through the majority of the game without playing the story. And even after you beat the story, it's like a whole other game. So I would say the story is kind of a backseat in those games. So I would say open adventure would be a better spot to put that.
So again, another thing that I'm just, like, iffy about when it comes to it, the main point, right, like Diablo 3, like, you have to beat the boss to get to World 2, right?
In Diablo
3. Like, you have to, like, defeat someone. Like, you have to do something to unlock a world. You can't just go straight to the world. So would that then drive it more to a narrative point? Do you know what I mean?
See, this is where I think there's a series divider. Because 4 is not necessarily like that from what I understand. You can go anywhere. It'll be a lot harder, but you can go anywhere you want at any time from what I understand. And then there's Diablo 3, which is kind of more like that. And I think the older ones are too. So I don't quite know.
So maybe this will be like an Assassin's Creed. Like, we'll put maybe 4 in the open adventure and then 1 through 3 in the narrative side.
It is. Okay. So we have all 5 slots now filled again for those 2 categories. Now, here's a question based on the fact that you brought up Diablo, and I feel like we're going in circles here, and this episode is not... We're going to have to cut ourselves off here, but... Diablo is a dungeon crawler, right?
Yeah.
We don't have a category for dungeon crawlers. I can't remember if we discussed this in the last episode or not, but do we know why? Is there like a reason why?
So again, I think it's just because we made it too narrow when we did narrative, and narrative can be split up in so many things that an RPG is a story game. A dungeon crawler can be a story game, and its primary focus is not primary, but its focus. And I think the other thing, like what I think someone commented in that one too, is we're starting to get into possible tags. I don't think the game is a dungeon crawler. That's just the gameplay point of this narrative or choose your own adventure story. So, I think shooter and open world can be, but is dungeon crawler too specific? Is that a tag or is that a genre?
You're
you
right,
know what I mean?
It's like layers. You can have an open world dungeon crawler, so open world can be a category, but dungeon crawler can't, and you can have I guess you can have a shooter dungeon crawler as well.
So I think dungeon crawler might just be too specific. It is more like a gameplay tag. Like shooter. Like FPS is different than shooter.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're going to decide, if you're cool with that.
FPS is the category we have, though.
That's I said FPS and like, I guess, would we put like, do you just want to change FPS to shooter then? Because what did we put in shooter?
Call of Duty, Halo, Borderlands, Overwatch, and Valorant.
So those are all first person.
They are all first person. We do not have any third person shooters in there. But I think we did that because we thought third person would be more RPG-esque if it was. Because it puts in perspective the character you're playing as. We
both played Fortnite at that point.
That's in the Battle Royale genre, though.
Oh, we put a Battle Royale genre, okay.
We did. We have Fortnite, PUBG, Apex, Warzone, and for some reason, IO games. I guess we were struggling to come up with a...
Okay. Man, this is a really technical episode.
Yeah, no, like, this is
good.
in-depth.
No, it's good.
It is
good. This is fun. And this is important. Like, I do think it's important because we do really have to define that line between genre and tag. It's just hard to do so when everything is everything. Like,
yeah.
And I guess the other thing is it's just finding that main aspect. So let's say Diablo, we took out all the magic and we made it all guns. Is the main aspect going to be guns, or is it going to be the dungeon crawler? If there was no melee weapons and it was all guns, you had bows, you had guns, you had rifles, pistols, as the subclasses like necromancer or something. Is the main thing going to be dungeon crawler, or is it going to be shooter?
If I were picking for a genre, I'd say dungeon crawler then.
So I think that's just like, that's the main point. So,
but then that goes back on what we just said about it, dungeon crawler not being.
It does. Big enough for that's gonna happen. We're gonna be thinking on this more, and we're gonna be like, hold up, here's a new thought line, and I think that's okay because that's progress. And progress does not come without sweat and tears. Is it progress, though? Because it feels like we're going backwards. Okay, so progress might not feel like it's always in a straight line, and sometimes you're asking more questions than answers, but I find that as progress because now you're understanding the topic more because you're able to ask questions. Because you understand the topic to ask questions about it. It's getting really deep right there, I know, but I think we're making progress. We're going back.
Okay. Let's think about this one more time, though. Because shooter, we have decided, is not a genre, right?
Okay.
Is that what we're deciding? Shooter is not a genre? Because it's more of a tag?
I guess because, guns aren't a prime. FPS, yes, right? Like, Call of Duty is an FPS game. The primary thing's the guns. But guns do not make the primary point of every game. So something like Borderlands...
What?
Is
Something
not.
like Borderlands what?
Is
not
not
an FPS?
Did we put an FPS? Am I just...
It's an FPS.
It is, okay. No, that's fine. That's fine.
The sound of pain right here. That's fine.
Guys, help.
There's gonna be a lot of pain in these episodes. I can tell.
So I know this is an RPG episode. I feel like this is more just genre 2 to decide what genres are before we get deeper into RPG.
No, because every episode we're gonna start out like, okay, we're gonna talk about this, and then we're gonna say something, and we're gonna be like, hold on, that invalidates what we said before, and now we need to go back and change all.
Mistakes were made.
I'm dying.
We're struggling. So,
oh my word.
So this episode was supposed to be an RPG. Where do we want to go? Do we just want to go?
Because I feel like if we say let's not touch it, then we're neglecting all of the things we just pointed out, which would help us decide what an RPG is.
So do we want to just completely wipe the floor of the last hour and a half, this 30 minutes, and the last episode, and now that we have more of a baseline, the next 30 minutes we're going to try to find a baseline? I feel like we need to, but I don't want to.
I feel like it is very good that we broke up open world. That was a very good move, because that was way too broad. Now looking back, we're running into a problem of FPS implies that all games that are first person and involve shooting are FPSs, but what if they're not? They also have story elements. What if they're open world FPSs like Borderlands? Do they then go in the open world category, or do they stay in
here
FPS?
Would be a thing, right? Call of Duty and X-Defiant. They are not just FPS, they are arcade shooters. Then you have like MOBAs, like more strategy shooters, like Overwatch, Valorant. And then you have something like Borderlands. So would we want to break that up then a little bit there? Like especially at least we would have to do multiplayer and non-multiplayer. I feel like first-person shooters is a genre that we need to break up into multiplayer and non-multiplayer.
Okay. I have an idea on maybe how to solve this. Because if we end up breaking up almost all of these, then we're going to end up with so many genres. So what if we just make it like we allow ourselves 2 subgenres for each of our genres? Because I feel like
narrative, non-narrative, like adventure,
yeah,
RPG,
like what we just did.
NP,
like we had open
non-NP.
world, but we needed to separate them into 2. So now we have like FPSs, and we can separate them into like arcade shooters and story-based stuff like that.
That I think will work. Especially like, okay, we're not talking about racing, we're not going to get into it, but I feel like there are 2 levels of racing in the sense of you have your normal racing, you're on a racetrack, and then you have your open world, like Need for Speed, GTA type racing. Not GTA, but like, where it's more open world, you're competing against people on the streets. And I feel like that can be a category for that class. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. So let's start with FPS, seeing as we're discussing that one heavily. I'm going to separate it into arcade shooter and then a title for the second category.
So, narrative shooter.
Narrative shooter. Okay.
Do you have something better?
Sigh.
All
right, narrative shooter. Okay. So we have our 2 subcategories for FPS. Now, let's break up the 5 we have into there. I'm not going to remove them from the FPS category because I feel like those are definitely like, if we want a baseline of what an FPS is, those are good. But we need to divide them up into these subcategories so that we can also decide what qualifies as what.
So we need to decide some narrative-driven shooter game. Now, what's a narrative-driven shooter?
Borderlands. I would say Borderlands.
I mean,
is
yeah, Borderlands,
absolutely one.
but like, if we need 4 more.
Borderlands. Okay, then arcade shooter, obviously COD goes in there. Halo, I guess I would put.
So could we do like just for both of these, right? You have 2 aspects, right? Because you have a Halo and Call of Duty campaign, which would be the narrative, but then you also have the multiplayer side, which is on that more arcade shooter.
That's where the problem arises, because we have games that are both, and then we have games that are just one. So how do we end up dividing that if they are both?
I'd say what we can do, especially in this situation, what do people play more?
From the series. Okay,
what's the more popular? Like, campaign's popular, but people care about multiplayer. Like Zombies is popular, but people care about multiplayer in Call of Duty.
So I would, honestly, even though Halo has a pretty popular multiplayer, I'd probably put it in the narrative because people care about the story a lot more.
I honestly know more about because like I've seen clips of the story way more than I've seen clips of the multiplayer. Like, multiplayer does not seem like the main focus that people did for years to come. Maybe in the time when it comes to years, and I think a perfect example is that's Infinite. Right? Like, people still do think Infinite's a decent game when it comes to the campaign. Infinite multiplayer ain't there. And I want to say the opposite for Call of Duty. Call of Duty would go on the arcade shooter side.
Yes, I agree. Okay. So we divided those up. We need one more slot for a narrative shooter then.
Doom. Would you put Doom there?
You say that, but Doom started as an arcade game.
Like I said, though, but what do people play more now? Like, not necessarily in its front, but like even now. Like, even nowadays, like Modern Warfare 3, the campaign sucked. People are enjoying the multiplayer. Like I just said with Halo Infinite.
I guess because Doom doesn't have a multiplayer, so it doesn't have a even though it's not a strong story, it's a story shooter.
Yeah, it is. The main point is shooting, guns, but it's not a arcade shooter.
Okay. Doom is good, yeah. Okay. So for these subcategories, I'm going to only add 3 slots for them.
That works.
Because that allows us to divide up the ones we have, and then if we need an extra, find one more to put in there.
Okay.
Otherwise, this list is going to literally be like 50 pages long. Sure, let me drop back down here and edit the open world section just to make that look correct.
What are we doing to ourselves, JJ?
We have taken on such a big task
This
here.
was supposed to just be, let's talk about... The original topic was, let's talk about genres. Hey, racing games are cool. And then later we could do an episode on racing. No? No. This might be one of the most in-depth episodes we've done to date. Am I
this
wrong?
one and the last one, honestly, I feel like are just such
like the series
hefty ones. Hey, like, we needed stuff to backlog. We can just do 3 of these.
Yeah, no, we need to. We need to do a few of these so we can keep on our mindset of this.
Yeah, because we're on this trail, and we don't want to hop off this trail because we're going to completely forget this happened,
let's just
and then
talk
a year
for the
later
next...
be like, hey, we can go talk about that again.
So we could just record 3 hours worth. We split it up an hour each, and then when it's like, hey, what do we do this weekend? Just throw on a genre episode.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, okay. Are we good on the shooters now?
I think we are good on shooters, yeah. I'm just quickly adding...
FPS. Not shooters. Shooters is a tag.
Bro, no. Oh,
Okay.
my word. Alright, I'm just fixing open world. So what do we hit next? So we were discussing Diablo there with that, right?
Yeah. Unless, do we want to go to the other genres, or do we want to go back to RPG?
I mean, I feel like we should finish the thread we were on. Diablo. Do we want to make Dungeon Crawler a category then?
Okay. I see where you're going. I see the trail of thought. It's a good question. Do we? Because... Okay, so like the only 2 dungeon crawlers I can really think of is Diablo and Minecraft Dungeons. I know there's more, but those are the only two I can really think of off the bat that I've also played. And I'd say for Diablo, there's a big story. Diablo 3, there's a big story. But when it comes to, say, dungeons, is there really a story? Like, there is, but I feel like the main gameplay point is the dungeon crawler. So we're going.
See, that's what I feel like, though, is a lot of dungeon crawlers, they're not actually, like, uber heavy on the story, and it can almost be ignored just for the gameplay, whereas other games, like the other ones that we have in these open world ones, you can't really beat the game without beating the story and, like, watching all these cutscenes and stuff. So, like, even though, yes, Diablo 3 and 4 do have a lot of story, I played through Diablo 3 the first time not knowing a single thing that happened in this story because I was able to just keep playing the dungeon crawler and ignore what's happening.
Okay, so I feel like if that's how we're going to go, then I think we do need to make it its own category. But I think this one is fine for only one. Like,
is there really enough there for it to be its own category then? Like, if we can't find two subgenres for it, is it really enough to justify its own category?
So then where would you put Legends? Not Legends, Dungeons. Is it really open world? The main thing is the gameplay, which is Dungeons. And I don't think there's enough story there, whether that be side quests or just main story, to drive that. There's, like, no character development. There's no arc. It's just, you're just going to get strong enough to beat the final boss, and he's now sad.
Okay.
So, because I see what you're saying, right? Like, to make it a category, it should have enough content in that to divide that up into other tags. But like, a game like Dungeons, like Diablo, yes, we can put in a shooter. Not shooter, in like an open world category, in a narrative category, something. But where does Dungeons go then?
Yeah.
To merit that good, because it either. So I guess another thing we can decide is we can make it a genre if we really cannot decide another genre to put it under. So if it's open world, but we can put it under shooter. Right, like a first person, like that is its main thing, right? Like Borderlands. That's main thing is the shooter, but it's open world, but we can put it. Then that's fine. But say that we couldn't, then we can make that its own category.
I'm starting to understand why the RPG genre is so big.
Because there's a lot that you can do with it.
There's so much in there. Okay,
are you
so
cool with that
Dungeon
logic,
Crawlers
though?
Category. Yeah, I don't like it per se,
I don't like
but
it
I
either,
think it makes sense.
But where else do we go with that? Because if not,
we
then we're
wanted
going
to
to be here
have
all
a
day.
concise list of genres here, because otherwise we're just going by tags. So while our list is already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and now 11 different genres, not counting the subcategories.
4.
Tech on the PlayStation Store has 23 genres.
Okay, so we're still, like, having it. That's not bad.
So it's not like... Okay, I'm just going to quickly read this. Let's just get an idea, because we can think about what the official PlayStation Store says for genres. We have action, adventure, arcade, puzzle, role-playing games, casual, shooter, simulation, strategy, driving, racing, family, unique, horror, sport, fighting, simulator, party, brain training, music/rhythm, educational, adult, quiz, and fitness.
Okay, so I think that I'm like remembering my inspiration for this, because a lot of those are stupid categories that shouldn't exist. So I'm remembering,
casual?
like, this is why we need to do this.
I could say it's a casual game, but is it really? Is that the main
casual what? Like, it's a casual what? Simulators? It's a simulator of what? Shooting?
Let's see.
Racing?
Okay.
You can have a racing sim.
I'm very confused. It does have Overcooked. I'm seeing Job Simulator, but the first thing was a Jujutsu Kaisen game.
Yeah.
It's not...
I don't know about that.
It's a bad game. It's definitely... okay.
Okay.
So we're not going to necessarily do these, but we're not like completely far off. I will say though, with the subgenres like RP, like that, it's definitely a little bit more. But I think it's fine because I'd rather have 2 or 3 open world categories than say, do we really need a simulation, brain training, and educational category?
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree. But back on track, dungeon crawlers. We have Minecraft Dungeons and Diablo. We need 3 more for that category now. Off the top of my head, Torchlight. I've played a little bit of that one, but that's more of like a family-friendly dungeon crawler fantasy one. So I'm going to add that on there, because I do recall that. So there's that. Goodness. Let's see. Do I have any other dungeon crawlers?
So I've heard of this by a few people. Hades.
Yeah. That's.
I don't know. I haven't
that's
played.
A
but that's what
roguelike,
Google's,
though, isn't it?
I googled dungeon crawl and Hades is there. Hades roguelike
Seeing as neither
inspired.
of us have played it, I don't know if we
in-game.
should add it.
No, but we did add IO games for Battle Royale.
Yeah, but we both played IO games.
We're gonna. If Google says Hades, and I've heard of Hades, and I've heard good things about Hades, and I have not heard about any of these other games.
But have you heard about what Hades is?
Ish.
Ish. See, I thought it was a roguelike, kind of like
It does say
Dead
roguelike
Cells, where you like...
inspired. Giant roguelike dungeon crawler. So then is roguelike going to be its own genre?
I don't think so. I think roguelike is one of those categories that's like unneeded. So I think we'd still be able to divide up roguelikes.
So are we going to want to do roguelike like a big open more like narrative thing? Or are we just going to say that's a type of game, but the main point will be something else, like dungeon crawler?
Probably like that, yeah.
Okay, so then Hades.
Okay, one more.
Oh, here's one that we've both heard of. I'm gonna say I haven't played. Binding of Isaac?
That's a dungeon.
That's what Google's saying. Binding of Isaac, roguelike video game design and yada yada yada. So it's roguelike dungeon crawl. I'm seeing a lot of these games are roguelike dungeon crawlers. So what is a roguelike game?
Google that, yeah. What does it say about that?
What is a rogue-like game? A style of role-playing game, that are characterized by permanent death, randomly generated levels, and turn-based gameplay.
Sure.
Interesting. That really doesn't help in any way. Still need one more.
Roguelike games are structured around restarting and failing, each playthrough being different, randomized events, world changes. What have we done?
That is a great question.
We're at 48 minutes, by the way.
I know there's more dungeon crawlers.
There is, but they're also roguelikes. So is roguelike its own genre or not? Oh, because I want to at least have heard of it if we're going to say it. Even though I haven't played a lot of these games, I have at least heard it in passing. I've heard a lot of games in passing, so I heard it. I'm okay with it, but I haven't heard it like any of these. I mean, it says Dungeons and Dragons.
Here's another weird question, though, because the old Baldur's Gate games were almost dungeon crawlers.
It
Obviously,
says Dungeons and Dragons.
technology didn't really get to that point yet where it could have those kinds of dungeon crawlers. I think Diablo was the first one to really take that and run with it, but it was like Baldur's Gate, except not turn-based. So is Baldur's Gate the originals a dungeon crawler?
So 1 and 2?
Yeah. Or would that just be like a what's the word I'm looking for here? Like a tabletop simulator kind of thing.
I'd probably say more dungeon crawler. Because if we're getting into tabletop simulators, we could do simulators, and that's a whole other thing.
Okay, so we'll add the first 2 Baldur's Gates die.
Okay. Worst case, we do a simulator category in the near future. Because there is stuff, but I feel like we can maybe do a better category than simulator that's more generic that just so happens to include simulator. Like, I'm thinking like family, slice of life type thing. We could put simulators in those. Know what I mean?
I mean, I don't like family as a category.
No, but I'm saying like when we get to a point where we get to those games, we can do a more generic, casual, like fun slice of life type thing. Where it's
well,
like a vibe category.
We got 10 minutes left. Let's just leave this one with a little bite of, I guess, what will be the next episode, I suppose.
The vibe category. I don't.
No, Power Wash Simulator. What do you think that is? Where would you put that?
Power Wash Simulator.
Because, like, I don't know if that really fits anything except for simulator, right?
But here's what I'm kind of saying. We're simulators where we can do... Okay, so here's another one that possibly can go into a more generic category. Sims. City builders. To in like that slice of life like vibe, we can do something like that, and then we could put something like a family, Sims, cityscape, and then we could also put simulators like farming simulator, power wash simulator in there as well. And that can maybe be a subgenre in a vibe. Do you know what I mean? Because I just don't think simulator deserves its own, but I can see it as a subcategory. Because casual family slice of life is all a lot, but I could see that being something, a kind of category, like farming simulator, right? Like, is that very stressful?
I mean, then there's also games like Halo Wars, or like tactical games like Minecraft Legends, like that. What would you consider that?
I could see that
is technically a combat simulator. Like, it's a battle manager simulator.
When I think simulator, I'm thinking more like Power Wash Simulator, Fixer Upper, stuff like that. Where you like fix up a house. I don't remember what it's called.
Dang.
And then those, I feel like, would be more strategy type games. And we could put like...
So would strategy be its own category?
I would put strategy as one. And I feel like that would have more than 2. So... Because when I'm thinking strategy, I would put something like card games here. It's like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering. I put tactical strategy, I put League of Legends here. It's like Moab games.
All that
I've written it. I'm not liking how many categories we're having to add. Because I think I remember last episode we had left off with, okay, we have our categories, and now every game will fit into these. And now we're like, but wait, this one doesn't fit any of these.
Because, where are we going to put Power Wash Simulator with the story narrative driven?
Exactly. I mean, technically you can consider it an FPS because it's like a water gun and you're in first person.
I'm dying. Do we want to cut it short here? We're at 53 minutes. Let's end it on, we're confused. Let's talk about it privately for a bit before we continue another episode. I think that's what we have to do, because we're going to keep canceling, we're going to keep going back on ourselves. I think this is a good point to end and say we don't know, but we are now, after this episode, I think we are determined to bring you an answer. We're not going to leave it for a year. We are going to actually properly have some private conversations. We're going to plan our episodes, and we're going to think about it a bit.
Yes, because this one, we are both very committed to solving this puzzle. But right now, it really doesn't want to be solved. So
because
we need to find out how to go about this.
We need to just put a plan. And whether that's, hey, here's some categories, or here's what we're going to define, just the definition, not of a category, but what a category would be. and then we can come back and then we can start putting some stuff in those. Mm-hmm. So what did we get done today? Other than completely nullify last episode?
We divided up open world into open adventure and open story. We added dungeon crawlers as a category, and then we also divided up FPS into arcade shooter and narrative shooter. And then we theorized about some other ones that we could possibly do.
Don't let me get fired. Bye. So make sure you hit the subscribe button because you want to be a part of this. Join the Discord and help us, please, for our sanities. We are completely happy with you joining and telling us we're wrong because we know we're wrong because that's where that's the other thing, like the point that I made with the tags. We didn't think about that, but somebody in the comments did. I don't remember who. Thank you, because you're right? Like some of that, like shooter is more of a tag than a category, but FPS I do think is enough to be a category. So tell us we're wrong.
I feel like I just got home from a 12-hour work day, just using my brain for this.
I worked like 5.5 hours today. Not 5.5. What? Like 9.5. I've been up since 6.
You can tell because his brain just like completely did a division problem.
I also had to run around and get my fingerprints done, which they're done. Woohoo! It's been a wrong day, and I was not expecting this. I was expecting, let's just talk about shooters. Or something.
And we ended up
completely nullifying
our
the
work.
last episode. Subscribe, hit the bell, notified, join the Discord, please. Join our Instagram and Twitter, at Rant Podcast.
Help our mental health.
And hey, if this is the type of content you want, give us 5 stars. We never rate it. Rate us. Give us 5 stars on Spotify if you want, and you like this kind of content. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna go cry now. Bye.